up, what up? It's Maurice Moore here, and you are watching The Shifters. Let's go.
What's up, y'all? You already know who it is, girl LJ on the mic. I'm here with my amazing co-hosts, Kevin and Vlad.
What's up? What's going on? Yep.
And we are The Shifters. We actually have a special guest today. Mr. Maurice Moore is here with us. We're going to be talking about his upcoming release of his new album, Destination Unknown. But without further ado, I'll let him tell you all about himself.
What up, guys? It's Maurice Moore here, singer, songwriter, producer, Ottawa, Canada. You already know what it is, man. We're gonna talk about me today.
So welcome to the show. Finally we get you on the couch.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir. Likewise.
So how was Christmas for you?
All about family, man.
All about family.
All about
family and food.
Family and food.
Yeah, you got fed well.
Oh yes, oh yes. I definitely gained a couple pounds over the holidays, but you know.
That's when you know you celebrated right, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
So, before we get into the show, I learned something new about you recently.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you and Kelsey Vaz were brother and sister.
That's my sister.
Yeah.
Kelsey Vaz.
So when we were talking about getting you on the show, she was like, "Oh, I'll talk to Kelsey and see if he's in town." And I was like, "Well, why would she know where he's at? Like, are they dating or something?"
Like, we were talking for a hot minute about this. And this guy was.
I was puzzled. I was like, "Yo,"
steady thinking it was your girlfriend.
I was like,
no.
no, because usually if a woman knows where I'm, like, a man's whereabouts like that, they usually, usually something's
That's
going on. So
reasonable.
I didn't know. So that was a cool discovery to figure that out.
Yeah, man.
But 2018, I guess I assume was a great year. What were some highlights for you from the past year?
I mean, 2018 for me was just all about growth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I moved to a new city. I moved to LA from here in Ottawa. And after spending, obviously most of my life here, it was like a pretty drastic change for me.
Yeah.
So initially there's a ton of things that I had to overcome to really be able to make the most out of that opportunity. I was going through like a pretty rough breakup when I first moved there. Kind of caught me off guard. And it was, through the music, I sort of found a home for me to heal from that. So I just ended up being all through LA and, working with tons of people. I worked with Zara Larson this year, Eric Bellinger, Justine Skye, lots of K-pop projects. Just been like doing all kinds of cool stuff, man, and like traveling the world. So it's been a great year, man. Yeah.
When it comes to LA, I know Vlad here is a big fan of LA. He's like in love with LA. Like,
I love LA.
Like, what are some of the things that you kind of just in moving there, like, some of the things that you kind of just love about the city?
I love the women.
Me too.
The weed and the weather.
Oh, that's the 3 W's, women.
But I feel like what really makes it like the most unique experience and makes it as special as it is just the proximity of everybody. Everybody that you want to know or that you need to know is there. So, just the random things that happen, the random synchronicity just happens on a daily. So if you're just showing up, your odds are just amazing. So it's dope to be around that energy.
Have you like gone through like Compton or South Central? Any of those kind of places you saw in the movies where like, yo, I need to go to Compton and like South Central? And, like,
I have some family in Compton actually.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also like Compton. Compton was dope.
It's a vibe.
Compton,
It's a vibe.
Compton was dope, man. Yeah. There's a taco truck in South Central too, man. That I just, man.
Yo.
It's swerve the wrist, It's just saying swerve the wrist. 100%.
Cool. So you have, so tell us you have an upcoming project. Tell us a little bit more about, what you've been working on and what we can anticipate to come next week.
Well, I got an EP coming out in 2 days called Destination Unknown. So I put out the first single, I want to say a month ago, and it's been doing pretty well on all the streaming platforms. So I've been really liking it. But this project for me was really just, like I said, it was healing. It was healing. And I think a lot of people are going to hear this music and be able to heal themselves as well. Because I think it's the most genuine music I've ever made, the most authentic, the most vulnerable. And I'm really excited to show people that side of me because I think for a long time, I was making music just for fun. I really love making music, but this time I was able to tell a story, and I'm really excited for people to experience that.
I'm sure there's some people are gonna be at home, like people at home who listen to the album, and be like, who breaks up with Maurice Moore? Like who actually breaks
Y'all
up?
should have seen me about a couple years ago. God damn.
Yeah.
I'm about to get all those questions.
Oh man.
What?
How does someone break up with him? I don't know.
Yeah.
It happened. Yeah.
And so in moving, like, what are some of the things like you may have missed about Ottawa? Like when you're in LA, are there any times you think like, man, I wish I had a shawarma right now? Or
Yes.
like those kind of things.
Mangoes.
Not big in LA.
Nah, I don't trust the Lebanese or not out there, not out there.
Yeah.
Nah, not especially just Ottawa is just like I feel like so much based around like Middle Eastern culture. So like
Absolutely.
you get the most like authentic. In LA, it's just a lot of people just trying to get money. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is a Mediterranean restaurant.
Yeah.
But right here is that real. So I like that. But honestly, what I miss about Ottawa the most usually is just that wholesome vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the people in Ottawa think from a pretty familiar perspective for me. And it's more unified, I feel like, than some of the other places around the world. So I love that energy. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like I'm any skin color or anything. You know, I only feel that when I usually travel to the other side of the border. Yeah.
And when I guess when it comes to like, are people like, when people find out you're from Ottawa down there, are they like, where is that? Like, what is that? Like, is that near Toronto? Like,
Yes.
is there like are people kind of weird about the fact that you're from Ottawa?
Yeah, a little bit. Like people ask me like where that is, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people actually are learning. I guess they know what it is. Maybe it's because we legalized cannabis.
Yeah.
Everybody's
So
coming
that's
here.
probably part of it. But yeah, man, I'm always proud to represent. People don't even know where it is, but they'll know soon. So it's all good. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, now I was gonna ask you, like, just on a more personal level, like, now you're an artist, you're a rapper, singer, songwriter, you do all that kind of stuff. Like, how exactly did you discover like your passion for music, and how did it unravel into something that you're actually doing full time now?
Well, initially it started like you mentioned earlier. Kelsey, my sister, was like the first person who like made me want to sing.
Okay.
Because when I first started making music, it was rapping mostly, and I would do a lot of rap battles in the neighborhood with like all the older guys, and like that was like sort of my gateway into it, and it was kind of competitive, and that's how I got into music. I actually had to eventually unlearn certain habits to be able to reach a little higher potential. But when I first started, it was just around the city rapping, doing all the little open mics, and just getting my name out there a little bit. I started a recording studio when I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a grant in the city.
You
of
started
Ottawa.
a recording studio?
I started a recording studio. It ended up being like probably among the most popular in the city, and that's when things really started to grow, and like people started knowing who I was because everyone was recording at my crib.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm just some 13-year-old kid in my mom's basement. I got a grant from the city of Ottawa to build the studio, and that was pretty much how everything started. And that's when I started singing. And to getting to full time was really, football was my life. From day one, not music. Music was just something I just did because I enjoy it. But really, when I made the decision to leave football, being on a full scholarship, playing football, despite what my family wanted me to do or anybody, that's when I really saw the real growth. I feel like to get to the point where I could do it and make money, I had to like dedicate all my time to it. No school. Not saying don't go to school, but for me that wasn't the path. I already knew what I needed to do. I knew the steps. So I just had to go execute, and
Okay, and now here you are, man.
Yes, sir.
100%.
Yeah.
So when you look at like Ottawa music, like you've been in it for a few years, and you see where it is now. Like, how far has it come since? Cause from when you started until like where it's at now. Like, what do you see? Like, how far do you feel it's come? Like local music.
It's definitely come a long way.
Yeah.
I feel like in the purest sense, it's gone from, I feel like, just being like a little niche, a little like thing that kind of has a scene to, there's a lot of artists getting some great recognition coming out of the city. And that was like the first step. Yeah. And all of us are on our own trajectories, and all of us are going to where we need to go. And I think that's going to help, grow the infrastructure in the city for artists to be able to make more music, be able to put it out properly. We have spaces like the one we're in right now. Like, we didn't have this in the older days. So this is huge.
So a lot of artists in the city right now are like, there's conversations about people wanting to be Ottawa's Drake. Is that a thing for you? Like, cause I see, like, I talk to so many people like, yo, I want to be Ottawa's Drake. Is that like a thing? Do you want to be that?
It's a very interesting question. I don't know if I want to be Ottawa's Drake, but I think I want to be Ottawa's Maurice Moore. Yeah, I think I'm a different artist. I have different belief systems. I have different things that govern my decisions than Drake. So I think the moves that I will make will be slightly different. But I think I definitely want to hold the flag of the city. You know what I'm saying? I want to put it on, and I want people to recognize the city, and I wouldn't mind being the face of that for sure. Yeah.
Now, you're also, correct me if I'm wrong, you're also affiliated with the Storytellers, are you?
That's all me. That's my team.
That's your team.
That's
okay,
my team.
okay.
Yeah.
See, I wanted to ask you about that because I know that I know about a few people who are part of that team, from Jeff Stanton to I believe Melvin Earl Ray.
Yes, sir.
And all those guys.
Jaden.
Like how
Jaden.
how was it like connecting with those guys? And just tell us about the story of like how it all got started, because you guys are doing some pretty cool things right now.
Well, let me tell you, the studio that I told you guys about that I built in my mom's basement ended up being like a hub in the city. Like a lot of people would just come there. If you look on the wall, there's a bunch of names of all the rappers and all the people that came through and signed it. So as these people were coming in, I was learning from them as well. You know, I would watch the way they like to record or the ways they would do things. And you know, one of these days, Jeff Sannon came through the studio and he was doing a session. I was so mesmerized by his abilities. Like as an artist, I was like, man, this guy's crazy. Yeah. And I fell in love with his music. And over time, just admiring him from a distance, you know, I started getting my own ducks in a row and started elevating my career. And so when we linked up again, it was like a special moment. And he was always like a little mentor to me. And now I'm kind of able to give him some of the opportunities that he gave me when I first started making music. But yeah, really, we was just in the basement talking about music, talking about trying to get out of the city as much as we love it. Yeah. And it just birthed the storytellers. We had a story that we wanted to tell, and we felt like it needed to be heard. So
I like that.
We decided let's link up and just be the voice of these people.
On that same note, I want to ask you about that, because there's a lot of artists in Ottawa who have a hard time. You understand how it is, you know, the environment in which you create, and usually it's the environment that you eventually need to detach yourself from in order to get to where you need to go. So there's a lot of people who have a hard time, you know, leaving Ottawa and doing what they need to do elsewhere. How much of a benefit, how much of an advantage was it for you to actually, you know, go in a complete different environment and just decide, you know what, like from going forward, this is just what I'm going to do and this is where I'm going to do it from, while still holding Ottawa, like, you know, as your, you know, your home in your heart?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I never understood why anyone would rep a city other than where they're from. Like, to me, that's just so natural to just how I live my life that it was never a thought. It's like, it was always about Ottawa. It was always about the city. But leaving the city was just something that I knew in my heart I had to do. I don't think it's necessary for everybody, especially because nowadays we have so many tools to get our music out there. You don't necessarily need to move to a different city. I just felt, for me, you know, that's where I needed to be. And I had a lot of opportunities out there, so it just lined up, you know? But I feel like ultimately what it comes down to is putting your dream as your priority. You know what I'm saying? And that will start to give you your own answers based on your life and your circumstances. Okay, this is what I need to do to get there. And for me, I needed the new environment. I needed to go challenge myself. I had some lessons to learn, and that's allowed me to, you know, take the next steps. So yeah, I feel like it's just, if you put your dreams as a priority, you will have that. Your answers will come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Touching on actually what he just asked, I wanted to ask you your sound. So a lot of artists, especially from Ottawa, they honestly do have some of the same sound as each other. They don't really stand out different from each other. How did you like create your sound? When did you find your sound and you're like, okay, this is my flow. This is what I want to go with when you record, or even if you create your beats or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it started from me and my brother. We used to mess around. We had this like super slow computer, Windows 98, and one time we downloaded this software called FL Studio, and that was sort of like the rabbit hole that we fell into. And we had the demo, so you couldn't even save the songs that you would make. But having the ability to make music in the comfort of my own home without people judging me or like telling me if I'm good or bad, that gave me the freedom to just try a lot of things. I'd just be sitting in my room and watching YouTube videos and like trying to figure out how to record myself. And that was really what gave me the freedom to do that. But really on top of that, I would say allowing myself to be inspired from many sources. You know, I don't listen to one genre of music. I listen to a wide array. My favorite artist of all time is Shania Twain, believe it or not.
Yo, I always had a crush on Shania Twain. Trust me, she is like Shania Twain. Up until this day, I'm like, yo, Shania Twain.
Shania, if you're watching this,
yes,
listen, I love you. But yeah, no, for real. Just being exposed to a lot of different types of music. I feel like sometimes people actually box themselves in. Like if I'm an R&B artist, I can only make R&B. I like R&B, I can only listen to R&B. I did that to myself in a way later down the line. And it's funny how we teach ourselves these things, but really to come up with your own sound, you have to be exposed to as many different things as possible, and you sort of connect them in your own way, and that's what makes it you. So that's really, that's how I came up with my own sound, in the basement by myself, messing around with knobs and stuff.
So before we wrap up, there's a big debate right now, king of R&B. You know, we have Jean-Gilles and we have all these Keith Sweat, like, different people are like. So as an R&B artist, and I believe you're a student of the genre. You kind of go back. So weigh in on this debate. Who is the king of the R&B?
To be honest with you, while this whole thing was going on, I was very low key. I was doing my thing, just chilling, making music. And I didn't hear about it until after the hype train passed. So I kind of I didn't have the initial reaction.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, the king of R&B today, 2019, I would say probably goes between Usher or R. Kelly. You know what I'm saying? And if we are talking about the new generation, Jean-Gilles, I mean, you got to battle me then.
Oh, you don't want this smoke.
Maurice Moore.
You know what I'm saying?
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Maurice Moore calls out Jean-Gilles.
That's gonna be the topic of the video.
Ooh, man.
That's the title of the video.
Oh yeah, 100%. I love it.
But
man.
here's the thing too. There's the king of R&B, but I'm also curious who's the king of pop and who's the king of all these other genres.
Because the original king of pop we all know is Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Still is.
You know what I'm saying?
Is.
And what is R&B in 2019 anyways?
R&B is. I wanted to.
What is it?
Actually, I meant to ask you this because R&B has evolved into something very, I would say, kind of, it modernized itself in a way, but it's also becoming a very different thing than what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like when you think about R&B now, you really don't, hip hop, there's still that correlation between like what's happening now and where it came from. But R&B is completely different. It's like, is it hip hop? Is it singing? Is it writing? You know what I mean? Like, how do you think, I think it's becoming like the most, I don't know, like one of the genres of music that's evolving the most. I'm just curious to know.
I think it's really like, the way I like to look at music is on just like a spectrum. Yeah. That's like multi-dimensional. It's not just like a straight line. And so like everything can be mixed together. I don't really even like genres. So the king of R&B debate is like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like that's great. Like I'm trying to be the king of music. I'm trying to be the king of all this shit. So it's like, I think music is meant to merge paths with each other, all different sounds, all different genres or styles or whatever you want to call it. It's just music. That's how I like to look at it. Yeah.
Especially since you have R&B artists who are even better rappers than some of the rappers we're listening to nowadays. You know what I mean? Like you've heard Ty Dolla $ign spit. You've heard like Chris Brown. Black.
Like signed to specific genres. Have a lot of talents that we don't get to see. Because of what he said earlier, they box themselves, and it's like, crazy. I'm a rapper, I have to say rapper, but like, no, you can sing too. Like, why can't you do all of them? Why are you only limiting your talent?
Like Tory Lanez.
It's because I feel like humans we have the tendency to commit ourselves to like this grand narrative, like. Okay, I'm walking about my life. Someone tells me that I'm a good singer, and suddenly that becomes like ingrained. If people tell me that enough, that's who I am. So I have to act that out every day to keep up the story. You know what I'm saying? But people would be probably better off if they rid themselves of the storyline that they're projecting and just be in the moment. Because then you're actually tapping into more what's authentically you right now, which is ever changing. So I think like. The grand narrative. Everyone does it. I do it. I have to catch myself as I do it all the time. And I find it allows you to be just freer in your life because you're not chained to an identity that is fleeting.
Would you say that like that would be the best way to avoid losing your identity in this whole thing? Because especially once you start seeing success in what you dream of doing, it just pulls you apart in different directions, and eventually you don't even know who you are.
You have to define who you are. You know what I'm saying? At least that's how I feel. But what do I know? I just feel like if you're defining who you are and not letting other people dictate that, I feel like at least you have more of a chance to connect deeply with who that really is. But most people don't do that. You know, most people are looking outside of themselves for the answers instead of turning inwards, which I feel like is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you do in order to tune down the noise, in order to like stay in touch with who you are, you know, while doing all this thing?
I mean, it gets harder and harder every day
Yeah.
for me, but I feel like meditation is big.
Okay.
I meditate twice a day.
Wow.
I do too, actually. Interesting.
My man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Meditation is big. Different types of meditation too. You know, you have mantra meditation, which is, you know, you focus on a phrase or a word, and you kind of tap into how that makes you feel. And that's how I kind of paint who I want to be every day. I wake up, I think about what I'm grateful for, you know, so I'm already waking up in a state of I'm happy and satisfied with my life. So I'm just going about life having fun and being authentic, and doing what I want to do in the moment, versus trying to appeal to an identity.
Then at the same time, you get to really live in the moment without you know, worrying about, you know, all that extra stuff.
Exactly.
It's good. It's really
Meditation is a big one. I try to listen to, like, while I'm driving, I listen to podcasts more so than I actually listen to music.
Okay.
Just because I want to absorb more information. Yeah. I want to learn more. I want to expand my mind. I want to be challenged.
What type of podcast do you listen to?
I listen to, there's one called the Future Thinkers podcast.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
It's very dope. It's very dope. I would go to like the early episodes if you want to check that out. It's pretty deep. Lewis Howe's podcast. Gary V.
Yes. Okay.
Gary V is a necessary one. There's tons out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's tons. But I like to listen to people talk like we are right now. I find it more entertaining, more engaging. Yeah. And then I just create the music that I want to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question, because you're talking about Gary Vee. Is there a side of you that is very business minded? Like, do you see yourself eventually kind of evolving into more of like a bit of a wearing the creative hat, but also kind of that business hat? Like, do you have those two sides in you?
I think I already am. I think that's how I've always functioned in music, because I think from a very young age I knew that the music was also a business. And being competitive, I was like, I want to be noticed, I want to be seen, I want people to know who I am. And so I had to learn the business side of it as well to be able to get that, because, you know, talent in music is not necessarily the only thing that will get you heard, as most of us know, especially in the modern age. Yeah. So how do you do it? You know, you find other ways. But I think my business sense comes from a natural, strong desire to just want to help people, to want to connect with people, you know, and I think that's why I chose to do music at this point in my life, to pursue it so hard, because it gives me a chance to have those authentic moments with other people, you know, and that's like really what I do it for. So it's never been about money. My merch is always cheap as hell, and it'll probably stay that way forever, because I just want people to have it. I want people to experience my brand and what I have to say and my vibe and my energy. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more thing?
Please.
What's next for Maurice Moore in the next 5 years? How do you feel like you're riding that wave?
I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised.
Okay.
I don't want to be specific. I feel like y'all will just be able to watch it all unfold, but just know it's going to be greatness. Cool. It's going to be big things.
And when's the album dropping?
January 11th, Destination Unknown, Maurice Moore. Yeah.
Okay. That's 2 days from now. Make sure to go check it out.
All right, y'all. So that concludes today's episode for The Shifters. I'm LJ. You can catch me on Instagram at theofficial.missjordan. Kevin, where can they reach you?
Find me on Instagram at Kevin B Unfiltered, and on Twitter at Kevin R. Bourne.
I'm Vlad. You can find me anywhere on Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram at just as Vlad. That's also YouTube. I'm out here. Just look me up.
He's out here. You guys can find me on Instagram at Maurice Moore, and for everything else, just hit up Google and search Maurice Moore. And make sure you guys go leave a comment on the video. Let me know what song you think is going to be your favorite, and the track list is on my Twitter, so check it out.
Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to us. Leave a comment on all of our social medias, including, you know, Shifters on Instagram and YouTube. And don't forget, the album does drop 2 days from now, January 11th. So download that real quick. Like, set an alarm.
Set an alarm, y'all.